Here in the heart of the Dominican Republic's central mountain range, the government plans to build 3 massive hydroelectric dams. One of them right here, where nature still breathes untouched, will divert the flow of Bao River through tunnels carved into the mountains, redirecting its waters kilometers away to merge with the Jagua River in a much larger reservoir. But more than 80% of local residents oppose the project, according to our own polls. Why? Because this initiative led by the EGI threatened to inflict irreversible damage on one of the most biodiverse regions in the Caribbean, the Armando Bermudez National Park. Beyond environmental concerns, the dam would deprive over 35,000 people from the community of Mata Grande to the municipality of Jánico of access to the Bao River. This will devastate local economies that depend on agriculture and water access, and erase the region's ecotourism potential, just as the Yaque del Norte River has been vital for the growth of Jarabacoa. The Bao River represents the same lifeline for these communities. EGI has overstepped its legal authority, bypassing the Ministry of Public Works and awarding contracts to international firms like Andrade Gutierrez, companies previously found guilty of corruption and bribery in countries like Brazil. Meanwhile, media outlets and affiliated organizations continue to echo EGI's narrative, even as international watchdogs like World Dams Watch sound the alarm on the project's devastating environmental impacts, the destruction of rivers, forests, and wildlife in what could become an unprecedented ecocide.
My name is Rafael Brisita. I'm an environmentalist, and I'm here in the Dominican Republic, what we call Rio Bao, in the central mountains of the Dominican Republic. This is the watershed for the whole island. This is where the government of the Dominican Republic intends on building a dam, which they claim will be the largest dam in all of the Caribbean. Our point of view, from the point of many organizations here in the Central Mountains, is that we do not want the government building a dam in this area. My point here is to open the eyes of the world that the damage that is going to be caused by building this dam is going to be irreparable. We're going to spend years trying to recuperate what is one of the most beautiful environments in the entire Caribbean. Why am I here? Because I live in the area now. I retire, and I plan on working in the Dominican Republic, environmental and water issues. So this is why I'm here today, to let you know that we all need to work to stop our government from getting into the building of this hydroelectric dam. And it's not just one dam. They want to build 3 dams to provide energy to an island that really doesn't need any more energy. And remember that the building of dams is not renewable energy. It's really degrading the environment. What I'm about to tell you is based on facts from the World Commission on Dams from the UN, International Rivers, Global Water Watch, and a recent report from the Dutch government on the impact of the water condition in the Dominican Republic. So what I'm about to tell you is not my personal opinion, although at the end I will give you some of my personal opinions. Right now, I'm telling you what all these organizations are saying about the construction of hydroelectric dams around the world. So let me start by giving you the current conditions in the Dominican Republic in regards to the environment and water based on those organizations. Number one, we have an extreme case of deforestation in the Dominican Republic. to the point that in the last 19 years, we have lost 7% of humid forest covering in the Dominican Republic. And you can verify this by looking at satellite images of the island, going to the website of Global Forest Watch. That's just humid forest. Now, when you look at the entire island, there's also another point. 14% of the island in those 19 years has been deforested. So we have a tremendous challenge before we start talking about building a dam. We need to take care of the environment when it comes to deforestation. That's number one. Number two, the overgrazing of land by cattle is tremendous in the Dominican Republic. We have a tremendous problem because the majority of cattle raising is done on hillsides, and the cattle industry believes that knocking down trees to grow grass is the way to go. So we have overgrazing and at the same time deforestation to provide grass. So that's a major problem. Okay, the last one, which is one of the reasons why I moved to the Dominican Republic with my wife, was to help with the pollution of water and the environment. The majority of rivers, creeks are polluted by an overage use of fertilizers and herbicides. The herbicides and the fertilizers get into the creeks and rivers, and they end up at our precious coastal areas, which some of you know the Dominican Republic is the largest tourist attraction in all of the Caribbean. So what is happening is fertilizers and herbicides are getting to the coastal areas and causing destruction of mangroves, corals, and sea life. What is happening is that the overuse of these fertilizers and herbicides eventually will destroy our coral reefs in our way of life as an island. And again, I go back to the point of the government not doing anything to prevent the pollution. Those three areas, deforestation, overgrazing, and the contamination of rivers, are destroying our way of life in one of the most beautiful places in the entire world, because our government is not doing anything to protect the environment. The biggest concern that I have as the resident of this island is sea levels will start to rise. So when we have sea levels that go up as an island, we are going to have more floods, more devastation. So let me give you some points now regarding what the Dutch have told us about the water condition in the Dominican Republic. First, the Dominican Republic is one of the countries around the world that will be impacted the most by climate change. We are actually number 11 in the world to be impacted the most in the long term. So we're number 11. This is what the Dutch study says about what's going to happen in the next 50 years. Because of global warming, our condition will be reduced by 15%. The amount of rainfall in the Dominican Republic will fall by 15% from now to 2050. What does that mean for us? Why build a dam if you're not going to have water? Why build a dam if you're going to reduce the amount of rain that the island is going to receive? So this is another point for the government to really look at before they decide to build a dam. The Dominican government has admitted, and the Dutch have verified this, that the main river in the Dominican Republic, which is El Rio Yaque, which this river, Bao, is a tributary to, will reduce its flow by 22%. Almost a quarter of the flow will be reduced by 2025. 2025 is 3 years away from now. And that is the river that the Dominican government wants to dam. Bao Jagua flow into the Rio Yaque del Norte, the biggest river on the entire island of Hispaniola. So we're going to lose 22% of its flow by year 2025. Okay, at the same time, the Dominican Republic and Haiti have some of the most diverse plant life and obviously not so much animal life, but plant life, because the island has lost a lot of its fauna due to overuse and extinction of a lot of species. The Dominican Republic, according to, again, government statistics and the Dutch study, has 32 dams already. For an island this small, I don't know how many Haiti has. I didn't get a chance to look at it, but we have 32. What is the issue with those 32 dams? There's no preventive maintenance given to these dams. So what is the issue with building a new dam? Let's not build a new one until we take care of those 32 dams that we have in place right now. And finally, let me tell you that the point that is the hardest for me to swallow, per se, is that if you look at the satellite imagery, the area that's getting the most deforestation is this area of the Dominican Republic, the Central Mountains. Why? Why do we have so much deforestation? Because there's a lot of old growth forest, there's a lot of pine in the area, and we have uncontrolled cutting of the forest, and no one does anything about it. Before I go into the impact to the area that we're sitting at, let me tell you that the UN, the Commission on World Dams, made it very clear that the benefits of dams are only good for areas that are very remote for where the dams are being built. So as we look at that, why build a dam if the local communities are not going to benefit? So we need to look at that. Dams or hydroelectric dams are not green anymore. They degrade the environment over the long run. So we must look at a way of reducing the amount of dams that we build, not only in the Dominican Republic or Hispaniola, but around the world. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this specific point in regards to the construction of the dam, the hydroelectric dam the government wants to build. This point here is what we call Rio Bao, which is one of the main tributaries to Rio Yaque del Norte, as I mentioned to you earlier. Why not build the dam here? First of all, we're only about 25, maybe less than 15 miles from where this river is born. We are also maybe 30 kilometers, maybe 18 miles from the highest point in the entire Caribbean. That is Pico Duarte. It's over 10,300 feet of elevation, and the government is not thinking about the consequences of building the dam here. As you can see, they have already marked one of the points where the dam is going to be built. There's one there and one to my left. If the dam is built here, there are going to be consequences not only for the environment here, but also economic consequences. We are in a humid forest where the decomposition of organic material will fill the dam with sediment because it's a natural state of the forest. There's a definite reason why we should not build the dam here, as I mentioned earlier. Why not build the dam further downstream where there's not as much damage? Not that we're for building a dam, but pick a different spot. Don't do it here, because the impact is going to be substantial, not only to the environment here in the mountains, but also in the coastal areas. We're sitting here at the point where the dam is going to be built to make the area a dam for the hydroelectric that is going to be built by the government. Obviously, we have concerns because we're sitting inside the largest national park in the Caribbean. We're sitting at about 3,200 feet, about 980 meters above sea level. And as you can see, there's vegetation here and plant life that's only found in this area of the Dominican Republic. Once we flood the area with the dam, all of these trees are going to disappear and they're going to decompose and cause a large amount of methane gas, which is going to be released to the atmosphere. And also we are going to lose the absorption of carbon dioxide. The trees, as we know, intake carbon dioxide and they produce oxygen for us. So all of this is going to disappear. This is a tremendous problem for an area that's protected and sitting at one of the highest points in the Dominican Republic. So we're sitting here at one of the points where the company that's going to be building the dam has come and set us as a reference point. This one here, and to the east, we have another point which is about 500 meters from here, maybe like 600 or 700 yards to the east. If we look at the area, the concern obviously about building the dam here is one, because we're losing the water on the river, but if you look here to the right, we have cattle already grazing in this area, and also we have farming going on at the headwaters of this river. So the devastation that's occurring now prior to the dam, it's already in place. What we need to remind those that are for the dam is that we don't have to build the dam to do damage. We're already doing some damage. We're sitting here in a river called Rio Jagua, which is a tributary to Rio Yaque del Norte, where one of the dams is going to be built. Around the world, the studies conducted by the UN with the Commission on Dams is that the benefits are very little for the adjacent communities. That will be the case here in the mountains of the Dominican Republic. The communities that are downstream from the dam are going to suffer because they're going to lose the flow of the river to do farming, to do fishing, and to bring clean water to their communities. So that's another big impact that the communities are going to suffer over a period of time. Psychologically, they are going to suffer because they're going to lose that precious resource of water. Let's talk about the impact economically, real quickly. The other big impact is the efficiency of the hydroelectric. If they plan that they're going to produce 2 megawatts of power, they usually overestimate it up to 55%. So a dam that is supposed to produce 1 megawatt might produce 0.45 instead of 1 megawatt. So we need to look at the amount of energy that's going to be produced versus what is being published by the builders of the dam and the government. We're sitting in the Caribbean, where the temperature of the water in the dam is going to be pretty high. What happens when that temperature in water goes up? We lose a lot of water through evaporation. So the efficiency of the dam is also going to go down. Economically, we are going to be losing funds because the amount of water that we have in the dam is going to just simply evaporate. At the same time, because we're in the Caribbean, the amount of sediment that is going to accumulate in the dam is going to reduce the amount of water that the dam holds. In the history in the Dominican Republic is that we do not give preventive maintenance or follow-up after we construct the dams. There are 32 dams in the Dominican Republic, and the dams have a history of not being maintained. That will be the case here. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about the impact to the communities. They promised the communities that they're going to have electrical power and potable water for drinking, and in the majority of cases that doesn't happen. So economically, the communities do not benefit. First of all, the energy gets taken to further communities away from the dam, and the water is usually taken to another distant location without any benefits to the community. So economically, the community suffer. For us, a region of a lot of tourism, people come hiking, bathing in the rivers, will also be impacted because the river is no longer going to be flowing. So what is going to happen to the influx of tourists? It's going to diminish, and we're going to lose funds that we currently have guaranteed because of the amount of people that come to the area. Let's talk about, finally, the impact to the environment. The quality of water in the dam also is very low because the water is stagnated, and then we start getting organisms that are bad for humans. We get smaller bacteria that populates at a higher rate. We talk about mosquito populations in the Caribbean. That's going to be another tremendous problem for us. And finally, the reduction of not fertilizers, but nutrients that are going to go to the ocean. Remember, the Dominican Republic and Haiti are on the Hispaniola Island, and we have coastal areas that are very dependent on the flow of clean water with micronutrients that get to the coral reefs, into the mangroves, and sea life. All of that is going to suffer because when we dam the river, none of that is going to make it to the coastal areas. So the impact is not only to the mountains, but also to the coastal area. And remember, the Dominican Republic is the #1 tourist destination in the Caribbean, and they come here for one reason mainly, and it's the ocean. They want to go to the beaches. And if we destroy the coral reef and the mangroves and sea life, we're going to have problems in our hands. Okay, we're talking about the environmental impact. One of the things that we know that hasn't been done is seismic studies to see what's going to happen once the dam gets built. First of all, there's going to be 3 reservoirs that are going to be built. It's not one. There are 3 reservoirs. As we noted earlier, there's going to be one in Mata Grande, Rio Bao. There's going to be one here in Rio Jagua, in the community of Limones, in Las Placetas, and then there's another one further south, northeast from here. What is going to happen when we have an earthquake in this area? We're sitting in a Caribbean plate that shifts all the time. Many of you remember that in Haiti there was a massive earthquake about 10 years ago, and that earthquake was felt here in the mountains of the Dominican Republic. So why hasn't been a study published on the seismic impact when we connect all three reservoirs? Remember, these reservoirs are going to be connected through tunnels. What is the impact of the tunnels, and what is the impact of damming the rivers on the conditions? Not to scare anybody, but the day that we do have an earthquake, what is going to happen? That is a question for the government. So I want to end that with the point that the construction of the dam should be methodically looked at by government agencies before a large investment like that is made. The government has spent a lot of money studying the construction of the dam, but not studying the environmental impact of the dam. The government needs to go back, take a step back, and look at seismic study and environmental impact and psychologically and social impact in the area. That has not been done, or to our knowledge, they haven't published it. So with that, I want to move to some recommendations from my point of view in some of the studies that I have read from the International Rivers, from the Dutch study that was conducted and published in April 2015. First of all, the Dominican Republic last year created a cabinet position to mitigate the condition of water in the Dominican Republic. And here's one of their strategies. First of all, they say that one of their strategies is to protect and conserve all the rivers in the Dominican Republic. So fundamentally, we protect the environment and any possible development that there are in the Dominican Republic. So they cannot contradict themselves. This is one of their first strategies. The second strategy is that they want to guarantee the right to humans to have clean water and protect vulnerable areas. We're sitting in an area that should be protected. So we need to simply remind the cabinet in the government that these are their strategies, not our strategy. They put them down on paper saying that they want to follow that. So where are they when we're planning to destroy our ecosystem? And then there's the opportunity to look at all the energy sources. Wind, solar, waves, and other sources as an island that can be used before we build the dam. Let's not ignore those natural resources that are truly green, like wind, solar, and the waves of the ocean. Again, this is an island. Let's go ahead and take advantage of that. So all of those are possible energy sources before we build this dam that is going to destroy part of the island. Finally, my recommendation is that the government look at the electrical grid that is very antiquated, that has many problems, and many people in many companies do not pay their fair share of consumption. So we need to go back and look at those electrical grids and decide we are wasting energy, let's revamp it and create a good system. Finally, I want to close with thanking the team that's come out with me. Do not take my word for what I'm telling you. What you need to do is take a look at the literature worldwide to see what happens when we build dams. Hydroelectric energy is not renewable. Hydroelectric energy is degradable. We're degrading nature and we're causing problems. Please, do not take my word for it. Do some research and make up your mind. But I will tell you that the devastation that is going to be caused by this series of dams is going to be more than what the government and the companies are promising us. Thank you, and hope that you become part of this effort to stop the construction of this dam.